Well, hello everybody. Did you think that this show wasn't going to show up on this channel anymore? Did you think that we weren't going to do that anymore? Did you really think that Romney kind of walked away with the show? No, no. I was going to be back. Welcome everybody to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions for August 29th. And for those who didn't know that there was actually shows going on, yes, for the past 2 weeks there have been podcasts going on hosted by Stephen Romney. Thankfully, you guys are not the ones that are complaining about the fact that apparently he stole an idea that he's been working with me on. So I don't know how you can steal that. But okay. So at that point, welcome everybody. It's been a couple of weeks. I hope everybody is doing well. Just to give a quick update, the reason that I haven't had podcasts here is because I've not been able to host. I had a baby girl, and I've been busy changing diapers and doing all that fun stuff and having my baby girl cry in my ear. I don't know if that's love or not, but I will let you guys decide. But in the meantime, we're not here to talk about baby stuff. We are here to talk about some geeky stories, and I am being joined by my usual panel of wonderful people, wonderful YouTube channel owners, and wonderful geeks in the meantime. First of all, we are being joined by Aldo Gomez, who is apparently the king of exploding kittens. How are you doing tonight, Aldo?
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, I'm doing A-okay. I started off with more energy than I expected. No, I'm just really wiped out. Big week at work. I guess at this point it's okay for me to say it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you still have the NDA? I mean, they announced. So...
Yeah, no. So a lot of I do have an NDA for like a lot of things that I can't talk about. Yeah. But I guess it was more of a personal thing. I don't really like to tell people stuff. But for people who don't know, the secret job that I've had has been being a part of the Mickey Mouse Riot Squad, working on Disney Infinity 3.0 edition. Yeah.
All those are inside man. That's how we know to avoid their attacks.
Exactly. He's the one who misplaces the files.
But I've been working with them for the last... I think it's been 5 months since March. Yeah.
Yeah, about right.
It's about 5-6 months. Yeah. So it's been a big week. The game has come out. Reviews are coming out. So it's been like, oh my gosh, and essentially it also means that I'm gonna be jobless in about a week. So that's exciting.
No.
But it's gonna be a busy month for me. But otherwise, I'm building a lot of furniture in my house because one of the benefits of working for this particular company is toys. So many toys.
I was gonna say, did you get your entire line of 3.0 ones that you tested?
I got the launch stuff. So we don't really get anything that isn't available to the general public. So everything that came out at launch, we got, which was really nice.
But if I remember correctly, like when you tested Infinity 2.0, you basically got all of the figurines that you tested.
No, I get everything. I test everything, Adam.
Yeah.
There's not a single thing in that game I don't touch. Well, except this time around. It's been announced, so I guess I can talk about it. But Star Wars, was it Episode 7 of The Force Awakens? I did not touch any of that.
That's not surprising, though. I mean, they probably keep that very close.
Oh, it was so. I mean, I probably shouldn't talk about the details, but when one of my friends did work on that part of the game, a couple of friends actually, and they were talking about how rigid and secretive working with Lucas is. It's a very different, unique experience, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm happy I'm not part of it.
Yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that red tape.
Yeah, so it's cool. So I mean, it's really, really awesome. Yeah, no, but like I said, I touch just about every single piece of content in that game. So no, I don't get what I tested because they would have to give me absolutely everything. That's true. I get everything that came out at launch. So all the figures that you can go out and buy without doing any special pre-orders or anything like that, I have. So
okay. All right, and we are also being joined tonight by the Shadow Blazer himself, Alex Short. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So great to be back on this channel, apparently.
It's great to be anywhere.
So you don't have the dirty feeling?
Not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
and of course, we have to stick with the original style of his channel. If people are wondering what that icon is, I'm guessing it's Homura.
That is Homura. That's
I thought
Homura
so.
with
I thought
glasses
so.
Mode.
I thought so. I love it. People call him the hipster. I'm about to call him the magical girl hipster because that's a lot of what he enjoys.
Magical hipster powers go.
Well, technically, according to his channel's continuity, he's supposed to have a contract with Kyubey to be a magical boy. So
That's a long story, and it didn't end well.
I was gonna say your channel has continuity. I don't watch enough of it.
it has continuity, and apparently it involves 90s Kid.
What?
I've only done 90s Kid once, Adam.
Yes, you did.
That's what.
And
she
now
said.
people are going to be like, "How dare you!" And I'll bet if you set off a letter to Linkar, he wouldn't care. Like, sure, dude, whatever.
The dude uses so much Mystery Science Theater clips, really.
Oh yeah, you can't blame him for anything. And Spoonie's like 80% old 80s detective movies and a bunch of other things that are memed from Channel Awesome. But we are also being joined by our third panelist, who is apparently supposed to be in forever internet hell, but that's not actually going to happen. It is Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost, a.k.a. Studio Phantasma. And I didn't even realize this because I didn't realize I participated in this game of Uno, but he lost the show in a game of Uno. So hopefully it was to me.
Yeah, again, I mean, seriously, I swear, you must have stacked the deck or something, because you kept playing skip views every so often. I mean, that's why you don't remember it. I had to wipe everybody's memory, because literally, I could be wrong, but how is it possible to draw 5 skip views on the first turn? It's not possible!
Good point. But apparently I did it.
Play Uno. I have no idea what I'm talking about, people.
Oh, so quick note about the Uno comment and my tagline here is have you guys heard? You guys have heard of Exploding Kittens?
Yes.
The most successful Kickstarter in the history of Kickstarter is a card game made by the guy that draws the oatmeal. My buddy got his Kickstarter package in a couple weeks ago at work, and we have been playing that nonstop every day on lunch, which is a lot like Uno. So there has like skip cards, and there's a lot of stuff, everything to just avoid having a kitten explode on you. And
well, there you go, guys. I mean, he is now claiming himself the king of exploding kittens, so I'm sure you're going to get like 10 bajillion invitations to dethrone you.
Bring it.
Because that's the way it goes, yeah.
Dude,
but yes, so here is my wonderful panel, and we've actually got quite a bit of stories to get to. And I'm not going to lie to people. We're going to be watching our blood pressure tonight because this week has not been a good one. There's been a lot of stupidity. There's been a lot of douchebaggery. And there's been a lot of what the F is wrong with you this week. So not trying to cut Aldo off, but we need to get to this. So thankfully, we are starting on a high note because we're starting off with Pokemon, and I'm sure that nobody can get frustrated with Pokemon.
Except for these stories.
Oh, I can. Oh.
Oh, wait.
You're not familiar with EV training, are you?
Don't even get.
I'm familiar with it, never done it.
Don't even get me started on Pokken.
Well, you were not here last week, so would you like to put your thoughts in on Pokken Tournament?
Yeah, Pokken can go suck it when you have an entire franchise of over 700 characters and you give me a starting roster of like 12. No. Go to hell.
I have to say that was kind of one of the things that bugged me about it. And also some of the prominent fighting Pokemon were not in there. And I'm like, what the crap, man?
It's not even that. Why the hell are you giving me 2 damn Pikachus instead of giving me the damn Hawlucha that the other Pikachu is based off of? Just give me the damn Hawlucha.
Yeah, that's what I said, because, I mean, even the name is so stupid. I mean, Pikachu Libre? I mean, come on, that's like lazy. I mean, if you called it, like, Lucha Pikachu, that might have made sense. Or Pika Libre, maybe, but even that, it's still just...
Yeah.
It's the thing that kills me. So this is like a two-parter thing on my Pikachu hate. Is that so? It's a female Pikachu. So somebody went in and wasted development hours on making an entirely different model and giving it a separate voice just to give me two Pikachus and had the flying press move. And then like my second part of hate on this is why Pikachu? Why?
How is it a different model? Because, I mean, I saw the trailer like everybody else. I didn't notice a difference between them.
So it has a different tail because it's a female Pikachu and it has the hat stuff, so it's going to have a different set of moves that are more fighting based because it's based on the stupid cosplay Pikachus from Oris. So, out of all the things that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire gave us, I didn't need more cosplay Pikachu in other games. I didn't even need it in the first place. Okay.
That just made it look worse in my mind because earlier today I actually saw some female lucha libre on TV and by wrestling standards it was just awful. So now I'm just thinking, oh man, that image is now going to be in my head. And now it feels a lot worse.
You know what? Here's like the thing that kills me. Like Street Fighter just announced Rainbow Mika for Street Fighter V, and I was like, I'm okay with that, but stupid Pikachu, no. Give me a real wrestler.
The funniest thing about that is, like, I remember seeing a lot of people who were so mad about Rainbow Mika making the roster, because apparently, at least according to them, she was not one of the more popular characters on Alpha 3. I don't have a problem with her. I thought a lot of the Alpha 3 roster was awesome. So, at that point, I was fine with it, but I saw the internet rage. Like, you can't take her seriously? Yeah, you can. She's a wrestler.
You can't take anybody in that roster seriously.
I mean, if you can take Zangief seriously, which I'm sorry, guys, he's going to be announced. It's just a matter of time. Zangief has to make the roster. There's no doubt about it. And if you can take him seriously, you can take Rainbow Mika seriously.
Anyways.
Interesting how we went. And it's funny.
It's already begun.
We brought up two wrestlers, and yet we didn't bring up El Fuerte.
Well, yeah, but, El Fuerte is great. There's nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with El Fuerte.
No.
That's how you do racism right.
Well,
I want that quote now. Aldo Gomez, 2015, that's how you do racism right.
Yeah, again, still leaps and bounds better than Saban's Los Luchadores.
Yep.
That's like the lowest possible standard you have is Saban's Los Luchadores. At least that's what I use as like the lowest possible standard.
All right,
I use I want to be the best in the world, but that's a whole other bag of worms. Let's move on to the good news.
You had to breathe that anime up. Dang
I love it. I love it.
I think somebody even has suggested that for Alex for him to watch that.
Oh man,
I'm more of a mask guy.
So here we go. The first story that we have here is the Pokemon Yellow remake for the 3DS. So I know a lot of people have been screaming about this, that they wanted a remake of the fourth game. I was going to say third, but third here. The fourth game in the Gen 1 series, which pretty much follows more of the anime direction. And I guess in accordance with the 20th anniversary, which I actually did the math. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it's 20th anniversary in Japan because in Japan
it must be
in 95.
Yeah, because I could have sworn that came out like 2 or 3 years later in the U.S.
No, it came out 1 year. It was 1996.
Okay. So yeah, in accordance with the 20th anniversary, we are going to get a worldwide release on November 13th, 2015 for Pokemon Yellow for 3DS, new 3DS, and 2DS. The Gen 1 remake will include all 719 Pokemon available for capture after meeting the League and completing your Kanto Pokedex, as well as all the Pokemon being available, legends included. All TMs and berries from other generations have been added in. Okay, so obviously
and unicorns exist.
Hey! I'm playing Borderlands 2. I can tell you that unicorns exist. I can't remember what her name is, but there is actually, like, in Borderlands 2, there is a diamond-encrusted unicorn.
Okay.
Because I know the one you can use as a gun is called Toots. I know that much.
I'm gonna have to look this up. But
That's from
yeah,
Red Faction. I think so.
I just saw it in a Freddie Wong video. That's all I know.
So at this point, I must admit, that sounds cool to me. It sounds to me like another Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby kind of thing. And they do actually admit that the last Gen 1 remake was Fire Red and Leaf Green, which is way back when in 2004. So at that point, it is a good idea that they're going to go ahead and do this. But I'm obviously the casual Pokemon fan, so I actually want to hear from you guys. You guys, in my opinion, are way more Pokemon fans than me. So at this point, what do you guys think of a 20th anniversary yellow version for 3DS coming out?
Well, here's the thing, Adam. This story is completely dubious. We don't know that they're going to do a Pokemon Yellow remake, at least anytime soon. If anything, they might remake Diamond and Pearl before they go back to Gen 1 yet again. And even then, we don't know if they're going to do that. So,
no, we don't.
Unfortunately, the story is... I don't even know how old the story is because I don't see like a date stamp. And somebody said it in one of the YouTube comments where I discovered this through a YouTube video anyway.
Yeah.
And, first of all, it says November 13th this year, yet nobody's talked about this until just recently. I haven't heard any single bit of news, so it's pretty safe to say this isn't happening.
The thing is, I kind of want to agree with you, but they did an interview with it was somebody from the Pokemon Company. From the North American part of the Pokemon Company, and they were asking him if Pokken was supposed to be the big thing for 2016, to which he said no, they have something else, something bigger planned for 2016. Pokken is just kind of like a side project. So I'm a little bit inclined to believe that it could be either be the whole Pokemon Zeta theory, where it could be the Emerald / Z version of the game, whatever, or it could be this. Honestly, I'm inclined to probably believe this one because it's a little bit more timely, especially considering the anniversary status of the whole thing. But
so,
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt this really quick because I actually did find it. So this is the character in Borderlands 2. Her name is Butt Stallion. That's literally her name. And there you go. I've fulfilled my requirement here. So, yeah, I'm kind of that same mind because I believe on the website or on the page that the story is on, this isn't, or at least it doesn't look like an official Nintendo announcement.
No, this is
so at that point, and that alone is kind of giving it the dubious marker.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally it would be a good idea, but I don't see them doing it because as far as Nintendo is concerned, this gen has received a remake. And that remake is considered somewhat popular. So at that point, there's no reason to go back there.
And the thing is, if you look at Pokemon's history, is they're almost on a fairly strict cycle where they will present a generation, and 5 years later is when I think it was like 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly.
Something like that,
But it's a set number of years, then they remake that generation. Like you said, they just remade 3, so that the next one that's going to be remade in a couple of years is going to be Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, one avenue, again, I'm skeptical as well. I'll wait until I see a trailer. But it may not necessarily be a straight-up remake in the same style. I mean, on one hand, it could be pretty easy to make nowadays since they probably already have the models for all the Pokemon and all the assets built. But it may not necessarily be a remake of Yellow in the sense that it's going to be to the same standard as Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. It could maybe just be, I don't know, off the top of my head, it could be just a kind of a scaled down. They may pull like a Majora's Mask with it, just using the assets that are already pre-built, but not necessarily. It may not necessarily be to the same scale or have all that much new content. It could just be like, for example, a very cheaply made eShop exclusive sort of title. Maybe it would almost just be like a 2D version of it with just touched up graphics. Something that they wouldn't necessarily want to put a lot of effort and time into in order to get it ready.
Because of the manpower that would be involved in that process. They would not be interested in doing it otherwise. Yeah. I mean, if they had to build this thing from the ground up, that's a new gen right there. That's where they're going to put their time and their manpower.
Yeah.
So
if they built it in the same sort of engine as Fire Red Leaf Green, I'd be happy with that.
Sure. I've got an even better idea. If you wanted to do something like that and you were worried about whether or not it would be viable, here's a great idea for it. Make it like an eShop only thing. Don't have to worry about physical media. And here's the thing too. I would also kind of recommend what Romney was saying, which is you don't have to stick to everything that Yellow did. Okay. You don't have to stick to the story of it. I mean, you could still make it so that you have a Pikachu and it follows you around, and you could have some characters show up here and there, but you could also just say, look, this was supposed to be a thing for people who knew the anime but wanted to get into the games. And they've already done that. So that's another thing, too, is that I don't know who this is aimed at. Because the bottom line is that the card game has its own niche of fans. The TV show has its own niche of fans. The games have their own niche of fans. Very rarely do they match up. So at this point, I know why Yellow was made back in the day, because people loved the anime and wanted to get into the games. I just don't know how you're planning on doing that this time. Because it's not like you're telling Gen 1 story anymore.
Unless they try to kind of back on Pokemon Origin, maybe, but even then, like X and Y kind of already did that. And so, again, my theory is that if they're going to do this, they're going to do this as cheaply as possible. So I know that they do have models built for all the Pokemon in the data of Omega Sapphire, Aurus, that the game's currently out. They have all of those assets built, and so, like I said, it could be very easy for them to just do a Majora's Mask and just recycle the assets they've already built to make a very simplified, like, it wouldn't be a case of, oh, we're not going to have, like, sweeping cutscenes. It would just basically be, like, just a very low-key remake using the assets they already have.
Either that or just do a direct port to their eShop.
Yeah, Virtual Console. That would be the simplest.
So that is one story here. The other story I kind of want to get into. So I don't know the details of this, I have to admit. I'm still taking care of a baby in the first couple of weeks, so my details on these stories is a little far-fetched at this point. Far-fetched. See what I did there? So apparently the Pokemon Company, which I guess is the company that owns the TV show.
They own the whole Pokemon
the whole
franchise.
The whole thing, so it's not Game Freak.
It is Game Freak.
Game Freak's the developer. Pokemon Company's the publisher, alongside Nintendo.
So, Pokemon Company has apparently filed a lawsuit against 2 Seattle residents, claiming that the Pokemon-themed party they were organizing allegedly infringed upon the Pokemon Company's copyright. Sorry, I have to read that again in my head. So, what happens if it's a kid's birthday party?
Well, it's like one commenter put it, and we'll probably have to read a little more of the story, but
yeah,
like, if this is a kid's birthday party, chances are it's the parents organizing it, and they're just going to buy Pokemon merchandise at their store. This sounds a little more blending into the potential copyright infringement. I don't know, it's a little weird. So let me go ahead and read the story. Seattle residents Ramar Larkin-Jones and Zach Shore attempted to organize the 5th annual unofficial Pokemon PAX kickoff party. Okay. The party would have taken place at 500 East Restaurant and Bar Tuesday on the eve of the Penny Arcade Expo Prime Convention.
Yeah, that makes sense.
TPCI's complaint cites the event posters, its Facebook promotion, and advertised activities as the infringing elements. The events poster used images of copyrighted Pokemon characters, Pikachu and Snivy, and the event also previously used Pikachu image to promote the event on Facebook. The complaint also notes that the event would have featured, among other things, Pokemon-themed shots and drinks, Smash Brothers tournament, cash prize, dancing giveaways, cosplay contests, and more, as well as the amazing Pokemon mashup. Sorry, I had to do that. TPCI's complaint notes it aims to put an end to obtain redress Jones and Shore's Blant and Wiffle infringements on the TPCI's copyrights. Ruckus Productions, a business entity that Jones and Shore run, also listed the defendants. Both individuals, TPCI is seeking damages, attorney fees in order to stop future instances of the events. TPCI complaints note the events has been organized annually since 2011. The manager of the restaurant has said the event has been canceled. And yeah, they were charging admission for tickets for this.
And they had sold more than 30.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being kind of the point of contention, because if they're charging admission and charging for like drinks and stuff, well, they are making money off of intellectual property that isn't there. So if I were looking at this as an attorney, they actually would have a bit of a case. I mean, if this was a kid's birthday party and they weren't charging for admission, they probably wouldn't go after them. So I think
but here's the thing too: is that a Pokemon or a Pokemon kids themed birthday party, would they really be charging admission? Maybe if they were a Chuck E. Cheese.
And even then, they would have to get the licensing from Nintendo in order to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing here.
The thing here is, like Romney was saying, is they're charging for admission, but it's also a big thing. It's a big deal, and they're using, from what it sounds like, they're using a lot of Pokemon branding, a lot of Pokemon names and images.
Yeah.
And they're not just that, they're also kind of sucking on the teeth of PAX. To kind of get people to go in and, like we said, pay for these tickets to go to this kickoff party. That's
kind of the thing that I got hung up on, is that the article does not say this. Did the PAX planning committee have anything to say about it?
No.
Like, did they know that this was happening? Because if they've been running this thing 5 years straight, you'd think PAX would know about it.
Yeah, but then again, it's probably not taking out a venue that's close enough to where PAX is being held, which is probably why they didn't really issue a statement. Much like how people have Super Bowl kickoff parties or Comic-Con kickoff parties, they do it in a place that's separate from the venue where the actual event is. It's a lot kind of like the equivalent of paying admission to go to a fancy tailgate party, which is a bit of an oxymoron.
Well, PAX Prime is in Seattle, though.
It is, but they're probably not holding it in the same
near
the actual venue. That's the key thing.
They
were holding it at a bar and a restaurant.
And probably this isn't like even an event endorsed by PAX. This is, like Rodney said, basically somebody's glorified tailgate party.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm saying that's question one that I would have is, what did PAX think of this, since it's, apparently this has been happening for 5 years. The other question that I have here is, okay, so they've been doing this for 5 years. Did they approach the Pokemon company and ask to be able to do this? Because if they didn't ask, then I hate to say it, I'm with you guys. Because the bottom line is that if they gave the opportunity for the Pokemon company to work with them, and then the Pokemon company said no, well, nerds on you. You still shouldn't be charging. Because at that point, especially if you're using imagery.
Yeah, and with the shots and drinks, I doubt Nintendo would approve such a thing, because
no Pokemon themed alcohol.
Absolutely not.
That would be. I mean, Square would probably approve that thing for Dragon Quest. I mean, they literally have Dragon Quest bars, but Nintendo, no.
No, Nintendo would not be those people.
And to answer your question as to why PAX probably hasn't issued anything, given that it's probably not endorsed by PAX, if PAX were to make a statement, it could risk them coming under fire by Nintendo's lawyers or by the Pokemon company's lawyers, and so they're probably going. Again, this is coming from a perspective, like if I were a lawyer representing PAX Prime, it would probably be a case of, hey, this is separate from us. We didn't, for the sake of argument, kind of the whole plausible deniability thing, because the last thing that people at PAX Prime would want would be to be sued by a company like the Pokemon Company International or Nintendo, and so that's probably why they haven't issued a statement.
And that's one of those things that, like, this whole story just kind of reeks to me of, I get it, you want to have sympathy for the people who are trying to set up this Pokemon-themed party, but the bottom line is that they charged admission for it. They used imagery that wasn't theirs, and it doesn't even sound to me like they're very repentant about it, that they approached the Pokemon company and said, can we use Pikachu and Snivy to be able to advertise this, which maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe they knew the Pokemon company would say no, and so at that point they went, screw you guys. Well, that's not the way it works, guys. And the bottom line is that if you want to be the better man in this whole thing, if you didn't approach them first and say that you wanted to do this, not so much.
Yeah. Like they said at my high school, whenever getting content for any of our short films, when in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, every one of us, at least to some extent, gets some kind of a copyright notice. And sometimes you just either deal with them or you actually try to leave stuff out. It's very rarely when you actually will go like the Angry Joe route and actually try to combat it. Because at that point, you actually have to look at the overall scheme of things, and did you use something that wasn't yours? Yes. And so you're willing enough to acknowledge that? Yes or no, that just depends on you. That's how this is really coming off to me, is that people are getting mad because how dare a company try to protect their intellectual property? And I'm on their side at this point. I mean, it sounds to me like everybody else is, but that's where I'm sitting on it. So, with that said, shall we go ahead and get into the next story, which I think will start the whole issue? I know at least it will with Aldo, because Aldo was the one that brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
So, how many people in this panel are anime fans? Raise your hand. How many people are cosplay fans? You're now a criminal. Or at least, if this international trade agreement goes off, you will be considered one. So, Aldo, would you like to go into the details of this? Because this just blows my mind.
Not really. I mean, I could talk.
I know you don't.
It's like, so how do we put this? So it's something that's called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a proposed trade agreement involving 12 nations in the Pacific Rim, which is coincidentally an actual thing, another thing where giant kaiju come out of.
It's that too.
Yeah. So apparently some of the things that there's a lot of stuff going around, and in fact a lot of the stuff that we even know is because of WikiLeaks. And some of the documents that talk about kind of what's going on into it. And so basically what it's doing, it looks to lower what is considered criminal and to increase penalties on intellectual property provisions. So this means that you are now like punishing fan creators. Is that the correct term? Fan creators?
That would be.
The way that it actually, the way that it words it is the intellectual property provisions, which is headed by the U.S., looks to lower what is considered criminal and to increase the penalties. Now punishing criminals who steal other works for money is perfectly fine, but with the new provisions, the average fan can get tangled into a legal battle. Any derivative work, like fan art, cosplay, or doujin manga, can fall under a criminal offensive even if the original rights owner doesn't file a complaint. So basically, this is a live-action version of Content ID.
This is the equivalent of like, you know what? Yeah, that's spot on. I can't even think of anything else. Yeah,
that's the actual legal wording, and I wanted to read that.
The thing is, this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because this has been an ongoing battle that hasn't gotten any media coverage, and I'm actually glad Aldo brought this story, because this is a good introduction, because the Trans-Pacific Partnership, I mean, here's what makes it suspicious. One, it was drafted behind closed doors. The public had no access when this was being written. All done behind closed doors, not by anybody from the actual countries that were actually elected officials or representatives, but by corporations of these companies. And in addition to, like, effectively criminalizing fan art, cosplay, and doujin work, it would also basically give companies, not countries, companies to sue the governments of any of the nations that agree to this for any form of copyright infringement, even if it's within like the legal allowances. It basically gives companies for example, say we did a fan thing, or better yet, like say that somebody here in the U.S. passed a law preventing glass shards from being put into foods. But say you have a company over in, glass shards and everything Vania that says, hey, this hurts our business. They can sue the U.S. government for damages because... And
here's the thing. They do not need to go to the writer and get permission. They can just do it.
Yeah, this is a very messed up thing that is still being discussed in Congress. There's been an ongoing campaign against this thing because it also has provisions that are eerily similar to things like SOPA, PIPA, CISPA.
I was actually going to say, doesn't this have kind of a very SOPA, PIPA vibe?
Oh, it does. It's
actually part of the provisions. It is. That's how messed up this is.
It is.
So, just to give kind of an example to people who are not getting all the legal speak that we do, Alex, you review anime.
Absolutely. And
Japan could basically technically sue you because how dare you critique their work? How dare you incorporate anything? I mean, right now, you have a little icon of Homura.
Yeah.
How dare you have that icon of Homura?
Oh, yeah.
It's Japanese property.
Yeah, Aniplex is going to come after me now for having an icon of
And
Homura.
they don't have to go to the creator. The creator could easily just say, nah, it's fine. You know, I love the fact that they're using it, and imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. Japan says, screw you, we're going to sue!
And it's not even Japan, it would specifically be Aniplex. That's the key thing people need to remember. It wouldn't be the government, it would be the corporations in those countries. It gives them the authority to go beyond the bounds of their government to go after people. That is why this is dangerous. I mean,
Hideaki Anno could literally be on an island, taking a nap, sipping on coconut juice, and be completely unaware that you have talked about Evangelion and have used the logo. In the meantime, Gainax is suing the hell out of you.
Yeah, that's how messed up it is. And again, this violates a lot of issues because, again, they're going beyond the jurisdiction. I mean, way back in the past, we had the U.S. trying to extradite Richard O'Dwyer for simply linking to websites that had U.S. TV shows. I mean, granted, that wasn't legal, but all he did was linking. This would give any nation that agrees to the Trans-Pacific Partnership that kind of power. And basically, it's more or less making all of these governments kowtow to corporate interests. That is how messed up this is. And the fact that not enough people know about it is also a very bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely, Romney.
You can tell I'm passionate about this, but it's because that's how scary this is.
No, I'll tell you what's even scarier is that it's actually a comment that was brought in later in the story. Like I said, I have no problem with actual crimes being punished, but if the average fan can be hit with a criminal charge just for harmless imitation, that poses a big problem for the community. I will actually tell you that is a potential can of worms, because this is just anime and cosplay. What else get cosplayed, boys and girls?
Movies, comics, everything.
Superheroes. Marvel and DC could go after Jessica. Is it Nigiri?
Yeah, Nigiri.
They could go after her. They could go after whomever, because how dare they do this on their own when they should be advertising for their comic company?
Yep, and here's how messed up. Here's the actual wording from the proposed text as provided by WikiLeaks. Penalties that include, as for the punishment, it would be penalties that include sentences of imprisonment, as well as monetary fines sufficiently high to provide a deterrent to future acts of infringement, consistently with the level of penalties applied for crimes of a corresponding gravity.
Really quick, go back into the language really quick. Does it say mandatory prison?
Doesn't say, but it basically just says imprisonment as well as monetary fines. The idea of the way it's phrased is that it's sufficiently high to provide a deterrent, meaning that the idea is that the sentences, the prison sentence, the fines, what they're basically saying is, the prison sentence and the fines need to be outrageously high.
But take that into context for the U.S., because I may be wrong on this, but the way that I've always understood it is that if it involves anything international, it usually will go. It doesn't even become like a local crime. It steps right up to federal.
Oh yeah.
And federal crimes, a lot of them have mandatory jail sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Mandatory.
So
at that point, you are literally imprisoning somebody for dressing up as crappy Superman.
And remember, it wasn't more than a decade ago that the RIAA sent people to jail for downloading music. Somebody got I think it was Tommy Shore. He got 5 years in jail for downloading music.
And the thing with Richard O'Dwyer, that only took place 3 years ago as well, back when SOPA and PIPA were really huge things. So much so that it actually became one of the big questions that was asked to President Obama when he was doing a YouTube hangout as kind of a part of a publicity thing, as being interviewed, where he would answer questions people submit to them. That was one of the top questions of, why are you allowing the government to extradite UK citizen Richard O'Dwyer for simply linking to content? Not actually downloading it, not actually distributing it, simply copying and pasting a link.
Well, I could get into a dozen things about that, but I'm not going to. Frankly, I hate to sound like the super pessimist, but I look at this language and go, yeah, that's typical of government. I don't agree with it by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not surprised. This is the same governor. You said this was still being debated in Congress, right? This is the same Congress and Senate that have developed SOPA and PIPA. They continually try to get those things passed. So at that point, does it sound completely out of nowhere for this to happen? For me, no. It's absolutely stupid and asinine to do it, because at this point you might as well just be imprisoning everybody for even breathing wrong.
Well, then again, in the eyes of some people currently in office, that's what they want. I mean, we're basically seeing a resurgence of something along the lines of the Alien and Sedition Acts, where people would be thrown in jail for simply criticizing the government. And that was way back, I think that was under either Adams or Jefferson when those laws were in effect. And so people are more or less trying to bring that sort of thing back. However, there is a slight sliver of hope. It is slight, and it may not be the best sliver, but it's something. Because there's an update on this article from August 2nd saying that the 12 nations are not in complete agreement on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The key issues are regarding pharmaceutical patent data protection, data like dairy market access, automobiles, other forms of intellectual property. So in addition to us pressuring our government to not accept this, all the 12 nations that are discussing this aren't in agreement on all of the issues, which could prevent this from becoming a thing, because they have to come to some sort of agreement within the next month, or it won't go through.
Yep. So at that point,
You're
you're not usually the political talk show here, but if you're an anime fan, or you're a fan of anything, and your congressman is completely for this, give him a call. And just let them know that as a geek, you are offended that they're willing to infringe on your freedom of expression.
Yep. Call your congressman. Call your senators here in Utah or in Hatch. Mike Lee. Those are our senators. Contact them. Email them. Call them. I know in the case of the District or Island, our representative is Mia Love. Contact her. Contact her office. Congress has not reconvened yet, so you might even be able to actually visit the offices of Representative Love, of Senator Hatch, and Senator Lee. And as someone who's actually contacted some of these senators, I know that at least Mike Lee actually listens to his constituents. Not so sure about Hatch, not so sure about Mia Love.
Trust me when I say this, Romney, no, he doesn't.
Well, point being,
I'm not in their district, but I know somebody who's in a Hatch district. He doesn't listen to his constituents anymore.
Well, senators don't have districts. That's representatives.
Well, what I mean is, like, if longtime voters or people who are giving funding to his campaign actually have a legitimate complaint, he brushes you off at this point.
But to address that point, though, we were able to stop SOPA. We were able to stop PIPA. We were able to fight for net neutrality. So it is not impossible to actually sway these people, because it is their job to listen to their constituents. And so, yeah, contact your senators, contact your representatives, because they work for us.
Or vote them out of office.
Exactly.
Vote for us or fire him. That's just the bottom line. And I'm just going to take this moment and just tell Romney to go ahead and take his blood pressure medication. Grab the pillow if you need to. Guys, this is honestly, like, a lot of people have gotten mad at us because we don't go into the politics of it. Mainly, I don't do it because politics just brings up a whole new fire to the story, and I don't ever want to impede on them. But the bottom line is that, I still remember the day the internet stood still for SOPA, where entire sites went offline for an entire day. And I appreciated that movement. I really did. Like, it was one of those things where, yeah, it was a ginormous inconvenience, but I understood the cause. And this is one of those points where I'm like, can we please get the word out to that guy with to Channel Awesome, to the game theorists, to all of them, to actually have another day when the internet stood still? Can we just have that moment? Because
yeah,
that's just the bottom line here, that I cannot believe to this day, after SOPA and PIPA have been brought up who knows how many times, this is just basically another loophole to try and get it to work. And I'll admit. So
and might I add,
I may regret saying this. Sorry, Alex, I'll get to you in a second, but okay. I may regret saying this. But if this passes, I will literally go to Salt Lake Comic-Con in the crappiest cosplay I can ever imagine, and there will be big letters on my chest saying, "Cuff me. Cuff me."
Yeah, but that's the scary thing, because if this passes, there might not even be a Comic-Con. That's how many...
No. Because at that point, I mean, all the Comic-Cons would be in danger, because that's a lot of their community. I mean, PAX is completely devoted to being fans, not just of Penny Arcade, but of other means. Comic-Con would be done, PAX would be done, all of the local cons that I can think of would be done, because you just can't do them. But that would also hurt economies there, because cons do bring in at least something. Because I mean, that's why Salt Lake Comic Con exists. That's why Fantasy Con exists. Although I don't know if Fantasy Con is happening anymore.
Well, and that's why they're also making Evermore Park, because of the fact that so much money was brought in because of Comic Con and Fantasy Con, that they realized, hey, there's money to be had here. That's why they also do Steam Fest. That's why they also that's why more and more conventions have been popping up. They're building Evermore Park. It just proves that it brings in money. It brings in people saying, hey, there's a lot of people here who like these sorts of things. Let's go where the money is.
Yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, we do need to move off of this story, just because we are almost through this entire hour, and we've only gone through 2 stories. I told you guys, this is going to be a rage-filled episode.
Yeah, Umbridge!
Don't say Umbridge. That makes me think of the one teacher in Harry Potter, and she creeps me out. So, the next story here, but yeah, again, guys, if you want to leave your comment on these stories and actually give us your opinions, we always welcome them. And we always want to hear from you guys on it. But on to the next story. So, a lot of people might have thought the Pokemon news would have been our Nintendo Talk. No, we actually have Nintendo Talk this week, because a lot of Nintendo news actually did indeed happen. First of all, it was a speculation kind of story, but I have heard that Nintendo has strongly considered the option. There's a possibility that Professor Layton of Level 5 might actually be coming as a DLC character to Super Smash Bros. So, I guess the first question that I would have on the matter is, how do you do that? Because that makes about as much sense as having Phoenix Wright in Marvel vs. Capcom.
But then again, they were able to add Sonic, they were able to add Snake, they were able to add Mega Man, they were able to add Pac-Man, so it's not completely beyond the realm of possibility.
Well, and Level 5 is considered a second party?
Not really. They're still considered third party. They just do a lot of work with Nintendo, and they did have some agreements in producing titles for their eShop, and that's more or less what they've been producing more just because of the ease of it, although they have done stuff for other consoles. I mean, there's a lot of RPGs, a lot of people like Dark Cloud, Rogue Galaxy, Ni no Kuni was Level 5, and they're also doing iOS stuff, so Level 5 is still considered third party. They just like to work with Nintendo a lot.
And I especially love this story, which basically says the rumor stems from voice actor Christopher Robin Miller's IMDb page, which says he's voiced lines for the Professor in the English version of the fighting game. A fan chased Miller down on Twitter to ask whether the info on IMDb was accurate, and he responded in the affirmative.
To which I have to say, objection! Because I've actually got an official statement from Christopher Robin Miller's Facebook page that actually goes against that claim. Now, here's the actual statement from his actual Facebook page, because he shared the story. That's how I found this story, is that he shared it on his own page. And here is Christopher Robin Miller's actual statement on this. It says, someone tell me how I confirmed this. I hope it is true. So, that claim is actually bogus.
And the funniest thing is that I actually saw that too. So, fun little tip. You know, I keep on saying on the podcast that I'm trying to get into voiceover and stuff like that, and one of the workshops that I actually went with was Christopher Robin Miller. So there you go. He got an advertisement on Geek News Reviews and Opinions.
Well, yeah, and to add on to that tidbit, he was actually a teacher at my high school, so that's how I was able to see some of the stuff from his Facebook page, because a lot of my friends from high school are friends with him on Facebook because he was an acting teacher at my high school for a brief period of time.
Well, so here's the thing, too. Okay, we actually had this discussion a while back from the voice of Goofy when he said that Kingdom Hearts 3 was way, way more into development than they thought. First of all, let's just say for the sake of argument that Christopher Miller actually recorded these lines. How would he know that? Let's actually logically deduce this. He was only involved in one part of the process of creating this character, giving voice to the character. That's pretty much it. So in a lot of cases, I think I even actually sent out a message to him asking him, you know, do you know like internal developers over at Level 5 or Nintendo? And I don't think I ever got an answer back. But you're making a tremendous leap in logic if you're thinking that he has any say over the fact that this is happening, this isn't happening. I think if he actually said that if he got paid for it, then his IMDb page would reflect it when the NDA was actually released on the matter. Because I have a feeling, again, if this is actually accurate, he probably would be under an NDA. He could not talk about it.
Yeah, and another thing people tend to forget is that IMDb is a lot like Wikipedia. You can edit IMDb pages.
Yes.
It's just more often than not, the people that edit the IMDb pages for these actors, at least ideally, is their representation, their agencies, their agents.
Well, and on top of that, I always laugh at articles that say we tracked the actor down on Twitter. Are you sure you got that actor? Because like for every, I think it's actually been confirmed, for every actor, there's like 5 fake Twitters that are supposedly him.
Yeah. Plus, another thing that catches my interest, if you actually got a response from him on Twitter, where's the tweet? How come it's not embedded in the article?
And on top of that, I hate to do this, but you know, Twitter is somewhat journalism. It's not like the quote needs to be more ironclad than that, at least in my opinion. If you track the guy down, then you say, okay, can you give me something other than a tweet? Because that's 140 characters. That doesn't tell me jack. And on top of that, again, are you really talking to him? Do you know that for certain?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
I mean, and the thing is that if you want to get an official statement regarding any major contracts with an actor, you can't track down the actor directly because of NDAs. You usually have to send those sorts of requests to their agencies so that they can have official statements prepared. Because back when there was the whole thing between Kevin Smith and Tim Burton regarding the ending of Planet of the Apes, Kevin Smith didn't contact Tim Burton directly. The reporter didn't contact Tim Burton directly. He contacted Tim Burton's agent. Granted, Tim Burton was the one who started responding. I mean, the video about that whole thing, but that's how it works. If you want actual confirmation, you have to contact their actual representation. Yeah. And really, this article, it's too nebulous. There's no proof of it.
Now, granted, if Professor Layton became a character in Smash, are we saying that we would hate him being in there? No. I love Ryu in there. Ryu makes no sense to some extent on why he should be there, because already Capcom has their representation. But he exists, and it's fine, and I have no problem. If Professor Layton wants to be a part of the Smash roster, great. I don't care. That's fine. But when you're just going off of one source instead of maybe 3 or 4, maybe an official announcement, even I start to sit there and go, really?
Yeah, because if that were, I mean, notice how they didn't contact like either Chris Miller's representation. I don't know what agency represents him or if he's a free agent. Notice how they didn't try to get any confirmation from Level 5. Well, yeah, it's just kind of case. Notice they didn't reach out to Level 5 or HAL Laboratories or any of those companies for any sort of confirmation. I mean, that's just, it's called legwork, people. If you want to call yourself a journalist, you have to do the legwork. And I could go on a whole tangent about how messed up, like, internet journalism has become, but that's just a key thing you have to do if you want to actually be seen as a credible reporter, is that you actually have to do the homework. You have to contact the people who would have this information and get it confirmed, so that way you're presenting accurate information.
This is true. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and bounce into the next story because, well, I was expecting Aldo to kind of chime in on this because he's a journalist and he knows what you have to do in order to get your stories fast, but we're also going to go into the second story here. So I actually didn't realize this, but yeah, I guess this is a thing. Shovel Knight got an amiibo. And so I'm excited about that. I love that concept. But Nintendo came out and says they are open to more third-party amiibos. And that's a little fishy to me because amiibos were developed internally, aren't they, Aldo? So at that point, how do they just give the kit to Yacht Club and just let them develop? And if so, who else would they consider as a third-party amiibo?
It's not so much that. I think it's. I think more than anything, we could probably expect some exclusivity, maybe some sort of exclusive content or functionality with Yacht Club games. But yeah, the amiibos I believe are made in house, and you kind of need permission, or you need permission to create your own amiibos, kind of like the Skylanders amiibo deal that's going on.
Yeah.
I'm assuming more than anything, this is Nintendo just being like, hey, you know what, you released first on ours. If you want to make a game that has amiibo functionality, or we want to do something with amiibo functionality with Shovel Knight, we'll go ahead and let us do it. It sounds like it was more or less of a friendly deal between the two companies. But I wouldn't be surprised if let's say, for example, gosh, I don't know. Let's go ahead with Skylanders. Let's go ahead and go with Skylanders. I wouldn't be surprised if they cooked up another deal with Nintendo and said, hey, we want to make an actual Spyro amiibo for our next game, and he would be an actual amiibo that you could put onto like Mario Kart, and you would have some sort of Spyro costume, or the same thing with Shovel Knight. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo said, okay, give us the designs and we'll produce the amiibo in-house.
Yeah, so that's actually the second question that I have here. So this is Shovel Knight. It only can function with Shovel Knight, or can it function with other games? Because I don't know if they're going to be like Smash Shovel Knight costumes.
I think it depends. It depends a lot on individual developers, and especially with their in-house games, which support they want to do. I want to assume that this is some sort of amiibo functionality, which we might see in Shovel Knight itself. We might see some sort of like record keeping, some sort of special unlocks when you put down your Shovel Knight amiibo, and all of a sudden your Shovel Knight character gets a random cheat code activated or something. It could be any of those things. I don't know the functionality on it. I just know that it. I haven't seen anything for the functionality on it. I just know it's going to be released in a couple of months.
Yeah, it's only got functionality with Shovel Knight. It basically allows for unique features to hit the game if you have it.
Okay.
Another thing is other reveals. There's also going to be a kernel-based program for Wii U, which I thought was going to happen. But yeah, it looks like a lot of the Shovel Knight amiibo is just exclusive features for Shovel Knight.
Yeah. So it also, like I said, it also depends on what individual developers want to do. If Nintendo wants to go ahead and give a patch to Mario Kart so that when you put your amiibo down and you get a Shovel Knight costume for your driver, I could see that happening. I don't see them doing anything for Smash as much as people want there to be some sort of Smash.
Would have to be confirmed at that point.
No, yeah, he would have to be confirmed as a character or some sort of DLC, but he's not. And I mean, to add to that, Smash has their own line of amiibo, so there's even more.
Yeah, but then again, some amiibos can cross over to multiple games. Like if you have any of the Fire Emblem amiibos, you can also use it with codename Steam.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like if he was confirmed as a character for Smash, he would have a Smash Shovel Knight amiibo confirmed.
Not necessarily, because when they announced that there was going to be a new line of Super Mario amiibos for the Mario Party games, in their press conference they said, yeah, you can also use your Smash amiibo for the same functionality within Mario Party.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's the Smash line. Like, they are releasing all the characters that are coming out as DLC and all 50 of the original launch characters as part of that Smash line with the Smash logo on the base.
Yeah. Because I know what he was talking about on that.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly,
Luminous Offensive here does have that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying, like, if he would probably receive this, he would get, if you bought that Shovel Knight amiibo from the Yacht Club one, it would still work on Smash, assuming that whole thing happened. Or
probably, yeah. But you'd have to be confirmed first.
Yeah, but you could also wait for the terrible Smash Shovel Knight amiibo, which would probably have some sort of terrible plastic holding them up in the air and just make everything look terrible. I'm not happy with their designs. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, it's possible. I honestly, it's probably just Shovel Knight only, unless, like I said, unless I want to do something, unless maybe Splatoon will do something where you can get a shovel as a weapon and you can throw paint around with the shovel.
Yeah, something like that, or they'll give you like Shovel Knight-esque armor kind of thing. Because I just barely heard they were going to include a bunch of new features with, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like a pop culture thing, and I was surprised that Splatoon was considered for that.
Well, they did the Decepticons Autobots challenge.
That's the one, the Transformers. Yeah. So you can have a T-shirt with an Autobot logo or a T-shirt with a Decepticon logo.
Yeah.
So with that, we actually need to move on to the next story, though. This is not Nintendo talk. In fact, this is more Konami talk. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to take their blood pressure medication. So I guess for the Phantom Pain, because it's not released yet, it's got a September release date, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so
September 1st.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've had a bunch of release date events that have happened for people to actually be able to play the Phantom Pain, and I also know that the reviewing outlets, at least some of them already have their reviews out. Like IGN, Game Trailers, I believe, has theirs out.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is being brought up is that apparently the Konami hosted unique reviewing events. And I'm guessing the reason Konami did this was to control the reviews. Because it sounds to me like, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, and Alden and Ronnie can step in on this for me, but it sounds to me like you had to go into the Konami event and play it there, with the Konami official watching your reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially, if they didn't like it, then they could shoo you out the door.
Not necessarily from what I've read from some of the official statements. The main reason, at least that's Konami's official stance, was to prevent spoilers. That was the key thing, according to the person over from. It's actually in the article. Yeah. From Games Radar, Dan Dawkins, it's basically that, like, for fear of spoilers, Konami invited journalists to review the game at 5-day quote-unquote boot camps tied to strict non-disclosure agreements. We play between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with no unsupervised play outside of these hours. That's a maximum play time of 40 hours, assuming no stoppages for eating, drinking, stretching, or reality.
So you're trying to complete a 35 to 50-hour game that you've been anticipating for 5 years in a realistic window of 30 to 35 hours.
Yeah.
Konami, what the frick were you thinking? I get that you want to control spoilers, but this is the age of the freaking internet. It's going to happen. And I love the fact that Konami just doesn't get that concept.
Well, I to kind of play devil's advocate, I can at least understand where they're coming from, because this is something that film studios actually do quite often with movies, that sometimes you have to sign an embargo saying that you can't publish your reviews before a certain date, or you can't disclose certain information before a certain date. So the practice itself is not uncommon.
No, the practice is regular. I mean, this is pretty much the equivalent of receiving your review copy 3 or 4 days ahead of time, and your story can't break until the game releases, kind of thing. Am I fair on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Might I add, review embargoes are usually a sign that your product is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I
do not want to think of Metal Gear Solid as a piece of crap.
It is a sad but true reality, but that is a warning sign, given, especially since Konami probably has a lot of money riding on the success of the Phantom Pain, because it could very well convince them whether or not they could still keep a foothold in the console market. So
I will honestly, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, because this is one of the things that I found very fishy about the Phantom Pain reviews. I've read a few of them, and I'm always kind of leery when a site immediately gives a 10 out of 10 to a game. Because to me, that's proclaiming that that game is absolutely perfect in every way, and that's just not possible. It's going to have its imperfections. And a lot of the reviews that I've actually seen have been 10 out of 10. They've been labeling it a freaking masterpiece. And I kind of wondered if, I didn't even know about this whole boot camp thing. Now I'm kind of wondering if Konami was involved in the whole process.
They were. Part of what makes it so sketchy that a lot of people are taking issue with is the fact it was an all expenses paid trip to these boot camps by Konami. And so a lot of people are questioning the ethics of all of it. Because it's kind of a case of, if you're accepting the money to travel all the way out there, then your objectivity could very well be compromised. I mean,
Yes.
Unless you waited to write your review until after you already left, but even then, that would be some pressures. especially with the allegations that IGN accepts bribes from a lot of these publishers, it tips a few things off a little bit. I mean, of all the reviews I've seen, I at least like Game Trailer's reviews a little bit, where he at least tried to, like, he seemed a little bit more objective about the game. I think he's one of the few ratings that didn't actually give it a 10 out of 10. I think he gave it more of an 8. And so,
something like that.
Yeah, but again, it brings up the whole ethics of game journalism thing, to use a dead horse term, but it is very much an issue because, I mean, for example, it's the same thing that actually happened, I think, I'm not sure, I think it was with Mission Impossible 4, actually, where the studio held special screening events for members of the press. All expenses paid, they flew them all out to Dubai and had them review the film there because that's where part of the film was shot, but it is that issue of, well, if you're getting an all-expenses-paid trip, then you're probably going to be pressured to give something a favorable review.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm getting to come out into this authentic boot camp experience to be able to play Metal Gear Solid 5, I mean, and all of my expenses are paid, I've got my hotel, I've got all that. At least as far as my end of being a reviewer, I would see that as completely fishy. Because I would want to be able to be... Look, I love Konami, aside from recent events, but I would want to review this unbiased. So I would literally want to go into this as unbiased as I could, and they're basically saying, nope, you have to do it with Big Brother standing over you. That's not the way the review should go. I get that it's early access, guys, and I get that you got to meet a deadline, but if given my own opinion, I probably wouldn't have attended this event. I would have waited.
And that's what the guy who wrote the article we're going off of, which was published on Forbes, the contributor is Eric Kane. He even says that he actually makes it a policy to not receive any invitations to any events that are all expenses paid for that reason. And it is very sketchy. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate, but I pre-ordered the copy because I actually wanted to play the game, and a lot of people did as well. Granted, the reviews, again, it's the whole overhype thing. You got to take them with a grain of salt. I'm still getting flack from Mad Max people because of that. But it is a very fishy practice, and this may get us a lot of hate, but I actually do kind of like how the writer of this article pointed out how this is what the people who were behind the Gamergate hashtag should be focusing on if their cause is really about games journalism. Don't go after the indie developers. Go after companies like Konami, because they are actually doing stuff like this. Go after EA or Activision. I mean, go after IGN. IGN, people, there's been a lot of allegations of them accepting bribes from big-time AAA publishers. Yet, nope, nothing. Nothing from the Gamergate people about that.
Nope, not at all. And that's, it's one of those things where we actually did get a little bit of crap when we gave our review of the Order 1886. Mainly, to this person's credit, they actually thought we had received a free copy. And no, we had not. I mean, we were a month off from the Order's release, and when we did it, I'm actually one of those people that I would rather pay so that I can actually review it unbiased. And as Romney, Alex, and Aldo can attest, I wanted to view that game positively. I wanted to be able to do it, but that's not what ended up happening.
We couldn't.
We were just bored. We kept on making steampunk jokes. I mean,
I kept falling asleep.
That's how bad it got. So at that point, this is one of those things where if I actually got a copy of Metal Gear Solid 5 from Konami, I don't know. I might take it back. I might mail it back to them and just say, look, I appreciate you guys kept me in your list, but I would like to be able to review this unbiased. And I mean, having a free copy makes me, just that alone makes me feel like, oh, I have to review this good now. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next story here, because we still are in the tech hour, and we're technically in the entertainment hour material. So, another thing that Alex actually posted on the Facebook page was apparently a joke that Jimmy Kimmel made, I can't remember what day it was, basically on the whole YouTube gaming launch. So for people who don't know what YouTube gaming is basically like a separate page all its own that features the Let's Play community, the gaming community. So people like Justin Cox, Markiplier, Game Grumps, they'll be featured there.
Yeah, it's basically Google's answer to Twitch is more or less what YouTube gaming is.
It's really supposed to be a competition for Twitch. So at this point, Jimmy Kimmel comes out, and I'm not expecting Jimmy Kimmel to care about this kind of thing. I'm actually kind of surprised he even devoted any time to this. But he came out and basically kind of not ripped the feature a new one, but he did basically made it a brunt of one of his really bad jokes. Sorry, I'm not a Jimmy Kimmel fan, guys. And I even looked at the whole gag, and I was like, you know, it's really sad. Conan could have done this better. And it would have been funnier.
Yeah, but even
Johnny Carson could have done this funnier.
Yeah, and although I'm not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel either, I do have to admit, at least it was. I found it pretty funny. And I'm not normally a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. My mom hates Jimmy Kimmel with a passion, but I just, if you see in my comment, the comments section on that video, it's just.
No, yeah, it's I don't know, buddy. Did you actually grab the popcorn? Because I'll tell you I did. Not bad.
Yeah, it's funny just how defensive some of these people get when anything they hold dear. I mean, you've got like the people who defend Let's Players, you've got Star Wars prequel apologists that get that defensive. The internet is a very strange place.
Leave Jar Jar alone.
Jar Jar's terrible, and you should never utter that phrase in my presence ever again, Adam.
Leave Jar Jar alone.
But yeah, point being, it's just, I thought it was funny. Again, sometimes Jimmy Kimmel has some hits, but again, Conan, I agree, Conan would have done a lot better. That's probably why Jimmy even did this sort of thing in the first place, because Conan does the whole clueless gaming thing on his show. And it still bothers me that we lost Conan O'Brien for frickin' Jimmy Fallon. That is ridiculous.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, even in that case, it's not just that. It's like we lost Conan for Jimmy Fallon and, to some extent, Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, really, Conan could have made the jump after the whole Jay Leno debacle, and we would have all been fine with it.
Well, that's what he did. That's why he's on TBS now.
Yeah, but no, his own show on TBS. Competition, you know, right off the bat. No, he went to TBS so that he'd have more freedom to do what he wanted to do. But it's just one of those things where I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but Late Night has not been as funny for me since, well, Conan was on the Late Late Show.
Well, you know? we're getting Colbert on the Late Show after Letterman retires, so it might improve.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't find Colbert very funny.
Well, but between him and between him and Jon Stewart, I lean more towards Jon Stewart. But again, we're getting some new blood. I mean, I'd rather watch Stephen Colbert than Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, to their credit, good comedians, both of them. Both Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. Colbert is just not my kind of humor. I'm kind of a rare deal. Like, I've only seen like Christopher Titus being able to meet my kind of humor. And then on top of that, Jon Stewart's like a personal frustration because I work at a college, or at least I used to. So unfortunately, I'm not able to hold that show anymore. But I worked at a college where 80% of the students that I dealt with were getting their news from a comedian. And even he came out on Twitter and his Facebook saying, "Don't do that. I'm a comedian. It's my job to make punchlines out of the articles."
Yeah, it's like someone who gets their news only through Weekend Update, and
Yes.
Because even Weekend Update, that's the thing. Like, it's not meant to be the actual news. It's just meant to be making fun of news stories. And
or even better, like your friend comes up and says, "I can't believe this story is happening. I can't believe it. You gotta check this out." You may link the article. You do realize this is the Onion, right? Yes,
yeah.
That's a credible news story. No, they're not.
It's called satire, people, and even I have fallen for satire articles before. I mean, there was a New Yorker article that I fell for that I got really upset over, but then one of my friends literally had to take me aside. It's like, this is the New Yorker. This guy is known for satire.
Here's a perfect example. Although, you and me actually got really frustrated when, what was it, the Optimus Prime DLC for Titanfall? That wasn't a legitimate thing. Where it wasn't an April Fool's joke. We wanted that to be real.
So real.
Yeah, or there was like Aldo with the Disney Princess film that I had to come in and explain that was fake.
Yeah.
And we have another story that deals with the same sort of thing of fake news stories tricking us.
I'm glad you made that plug, Ron, because now we're officially in entertainment material. And this one, I actually want to smack somebody. Because I read this, I actually had that moment. I didn't realize that this was fake. And people were posting it all over my Facebook thread, and I was like, no!
Or
no!
more accurately, you were going, no!
That too, but I was also going, holy crap, the Prozac budget just went into bankruptcy. So the story that I have on this is the Snopes article, but so somebody decided to make a little bit of a joke and say that James Earl Jones was dead at 84. The actual post was James Earl Jones dies at 84 in Argabutla, Mississippi. I think I'm saying that right. But it turns out that it was not true. James Earl Jones, at least to my knowledge, is still alive and well and kicking, and still doing the Darth Vader voice for Rebels Season 2. To which, at that point, I immediately wanted to go, don't do that!
Yeah,
Don't freaking do that!
Sadly, people have done it before with numerous celebrities. I mean, there's still people out there who think that the Paul McCartney we've been seeing is a double that they brought on after the release of Revolver.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's binky. But it's just one of those things of... The funniest part is, I have actually not seen James Earl Jones come out and make a comment on this. So maybe he is dead. Maybe we don't know.
Yeah, or maybe he just can't really be
Maybe
asked
he just
to...
doesn't give a crap. Like, oh look, this is another claim that I'm dead. Toss that one on the pile.
Yeah.
Like, so I originally was going to do this whole thing of, oh, what's your favorite James Earl Jones film? And I'm like, don't do that, Internet! Don't do it! And I even put it in our show notes. Stop messing with the Prozac budget, Internet.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Just rethink it.
Yeah, you're giving our tax guy a heart attack.
Oh no, you're giving me rage.
And by tax guy, we mean Alex when we throw him in a little closet with a pen and a calculator.
And the box of receipts.
He's our resident.
You know I'm the wrong person to do that, don't you?
I know. I absolutely know that.
You don't
Yeah,
want me doing your books.
You pulled the short straw. That's the thing. We all drew straws. You got the short one.
Gosh.
I got hobo duty, man. I keep the office clear of hobos.
Yeah, and by that you just go, hey, hobo, get out of here.
Sometimes he pays the hobos to kind of go after Peter Molyneux for a while.
That way we don't get Peter Molyneux announcements.
Yeah.
Except we still have Fable Legends. So, I don't know how well that's working. Anyway, so we actually need to get into the next story because this is going to be about 80% of the rage for this hour. So, we all were hoping this was not going to happen because after the first film crashed, I actually thought it crashed M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's career with it, but apparently not, because M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong is officially saying that M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong is defending the first Avatar film and proclaiming he is doing a second one.
Yeah, this article... I mean, my code green for this is not actually because of the announcement itself, but this article is just... It's a clickbait article. I actually read through it. It's not adding any new information that we haven't already seen in articles from 2013. It's just him defending the film, saying that he has materials and plans to do it as a trilogy, but it hasn't actually been confirmed. And that is why I am pissed off at this news site.
This is why in a lot of cases, I mean, I looked at the story and went, okay, first of all, if M. Night had a career at this point, which I guess he has a movie coming out.
The Visit.
The Visit, which is basically Demon Grandma and Grandpa. And at that point, if that brought him back up to the stratosphere, which I doubt, because he really hasn't had that much luck,
No.
do I believe that he would do Avatar 2? Sure, he'd do it. You know, he's defended his way of doing that film top to bottom, and he I don't know how many times he said that since 2013, 2012, something like that, but he has defended vehemently that he has approached these as a fan, and that if he was given another film to do the second season, he would do it tons of justice. Well, congratulations, you had a movie, but you didn't do a whole lot of justice to.
Except he's not a fan. He's not.
And he has the gall to say, "Oh, I was doing it for the kids. That way they no." He was like, "I'm not going to do the adult version with Megan Fox." But that's the version you did. That's the version he did, was the adult version. The version that took away. And this is coming from someone who hasn't seen the show, had to sit through the movie because my dad and my younger brother dragged me to it, and there was no personality in the film. All the characters were just... It's like someone took the Nolan ray, cranked it up to max, and then just shot it at all of the actors for 3 hours straight, gave them a brief break, then shot it for another 12 hours, and then had to make the movie.
Is it interesting to make a joke that all the last Airbender actors were pretty much doing their Man of Steel impressions before Man of Steel came out? We broke Aldo. Aldo's officially dead.
I'm like barely alive here, guys.
Yeah, and the key thing with this article and why it bothers me so much is that we wouldn't hear it from Venture Capital Post if they were actually going to be making another Avatar film. We'd be hearing it from Paramount. But I know we're not going to hear it from Paramount because they lost $380 million on that piece of crap!
It's not happening, yeah.
Yeah, it was $180 million for the budget. Actually, $200 million for the budget, $180 for the marketing. They did not make any of that back. They didn't even break even.
No.
Give me $2 million. I will make an infinitely better Avatar movie than Shyamalan will ever make.
If I had $2 million, I would give you that. Because I know you would be able to do it.
Romney would be my director of cinematography.
Okay, I've just got to make this joke. If I had $1 million.
Exactly. But it's just one of those things that actually, I don't know if you actually have seen his statement on the matter, where he came out and said he was a fan and then retracted that and said, well, no, I'm not really a fan, my kid is a fan. He's like, you don't do that! You either watched the thing with your kid or you didn't. And then on top of that, like, I've even heard in the special edition Blu-ray, heaven forbid people actually have those things, he actually does come up and say, you know, I'm a fan of the series and I wanted to do its best treatment that I could, and also saying that, you know, this is only going to accommodate to certain demographics. Really? Because the original series not only catered to children, but it catered to adults. Same thing with that other series called The Legend of Korra. Same thing with that supposed new third season, Karin Zuko!
Well, it's not actually a new season, it's a comic series that...
Yeah.
It's a continuation of the other comic series that's already been going for like a year and a half. So it's not exactly new. It's an
prequel, basically.
I'm just saying, every time somebody even mentions that movie, I go home, I pull out my the Last Airbender DVDs, my comics, and I just kind of cuddle for an hour.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be what I do tonight. You know, go onto Amazon Instant Video and just watch my favorite episodes. Because that's the only way that I get this out of here. And let's just be honest for one simple concept. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Paramount agrees to do a second Last Airbender movie. What the flippity flap makes you think that they're going to bring M. Night Shyamalan onto that project?
They wouldn't.
I honestly...
Why can't it be Michael freaking Bay?
Even then, they probably would be a bit more wary. They would probably want to bring in the guy who did Ninja Turtles, the director of that, and maybe say, okay, well, you don't have Michael Bay hovering over you, so see what you can do with this. They would want to bring someone that doesn't have a huge stigma attached to them, because they know, at least somewhat, how valuable the franchise is to them. Not completely, given how they handled the airings of The Legend of Korra, but it's kind of a case of, if they were going to take that kind of gamble, they would not want to make the same mistake twice.
Honestly, there's only one person I want to see directing any Avatar movie again, and that's probably Del Toro.
Guillermo, I think, would actually be a little bit more open to the property and willing to consider some things.
I could also see
would do it for fans.
I could also see somebody like Stephen Chow doing some good stuff with it. But then again,
definitely.
with that one, though, we would run into the same issue as Dragon Ball Evolution, where they want Chow to direct, Chow says no, but he recommends his friend to do it. But I'm sure, like, maybe if not Chow, if you brought Sammo Hung would probably do a good, because he's a martial arts choreographer, martial arts movie director. Sammo Hung would probably do a really good, interesting take on The Last Airbender, or even Legend of Korra, since it's supposed to be kind of period Hong Kong inspired. I mean, look at Ip Man. Ip Man looks really good.
I think the other person I would actually like, and this is just for the sake of keeping it close to the source material, would definitely be Peter Jackson as well. I think Peter Jackson could definitely capture a lot of the grandiose of a lot of the scope of Last Airbender. I mean, I'm just kind of dreamcasting here, but yeah, honestly, just anybody.
Dreamcast. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
But-
point being, anybody but Shamalama Ding Dong.
Yeah.
And to the
Give me
people
the
who are
guy-
actually going to send me hateful comments, how dare I not say his name right, you racist pig or whatever. Guys, I don't respect him as a director. The last good movie he did, as far as I was concerned, was probably Unbreakable. I have not liked any of the stuff he's done since.
Yeah, Lady in the Water was okay, but just okay.
Yeah, but we went from stellar rise of this awesome director, and then every film after that has just slowly notched him down. And that's why like the first thing that came to my mind when I saw, by the way, Romney put this in big bold letters, Code Green! Code Green! And the first thing that came to my mind was, wait, M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong has a career?
Well, given
much
that he was
over.
given that he was able to produce After Earth and prove that even Will Smith can make a bad movie, and given that now he's working with Jason Blum for The Visit, I mean, so far the only reason that I know he's been able to still work is that he does ghostwriting on screenplays. I know that that's pretty much been the only way he can keep getting work, is that he's been a ghostwriter on various screenplays for other films. There was like a rom-com that got kind of popular in the 90s, only moderately popular, that he later came out and said, yeah, I wrote it, but I wasn't too proud of it. But it's kind of a case of, okay, Last Airbender signs all these other films, and that's the thing you're ashamed of?
I honestly feel like anytime he gets hired, they're like, okay, you know what? We need somebody quick for this project. We'll hire you, but we'll give you an extra $20, and we won't say who you are.
Pretty much.
No, I don't think so. We'll throw in a ham sandwich. Sold.
There you go.
Yeah.
M. Night gets to eat this week. All right. So we need to move on to the next story here, which is actually potentially some good news, at least to me. So the next story here that we have to talk about is yet again in rumor territory, but we had to mention it because who knows how many times we've mentioned this concept. So I'm going to read from the article here. The following may very well crush your dreams faster than a speeding bullet, so you might want to temper your excitement about Man of Steel 2 and George Miller's potential involvement, which was rumored last week. Just a few days later, a new wrinkle in the ongoing saga has emerged, and it's not great news for fans of The Last Son of Krypton. Basically, according to Den of Geek, their sources confirm Miller is talking with Warner Brothers about what DC property to take. The studio would have to agree with his vision. Schedules would need to be worked out. Basically, it sounds like it's very, very early days on whatever a possible comic book film from the Mad Max Fury Road director would be. All right. So supposedly, the rumor is that he was slated to do Man of Steel 2. Because Zack Snyder was not going to do it, which I totally think is full of crap, because I don't see a reason why Zack wouldn't. But at this point, so this is not necessarily saying that Man of Steel 2 is on a permanent hold or anything like that, but it's very much in early development as to whether or not we have a director, whether or not we have a writer, whether or not we have any of this stuff, whether or not Zack Snyder is going to be involved, whether or not Henry Cavill's coming back. There's nothing figured out in this regard. So, to the people who actually sent me this and said, oh my gosh, you guys must be excited! What's there to be excited about? Man of Steel 2 is still very low on that DC announcement list.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, It's going to happen, guys. And Zack's going to direct it, and I'm not happy about it, but it's going to happen.
Well, and it mainly is contingent on how Batman v Superman performs, and that's another thing a lot of people think that, oh, they're giving up. It's like, no, they don't want to put a lot of too many things in motion until they see the box office numbers for Batman v Superman. That's just the way the business works. You don't start planning a trilogy, unlike Shyamalan, before you know whether or not the first film is gonna work. I mean, look at the original Star Wars. The original Star Wars didn't plan to have a sequel. They kept it self-contained because they didn't know if it was gonna do well. I mean, there actually was a planned sequel that would have been completely different from Empire for that reason, called Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
But Rodney, it's funny that you mentioned that because they did just approve a trilogy based on the movie that hasn't come out yet, which is the Batfleck Batman trilogy.
Yeah, well, not necessarily that. I mean, there's Batman v Superman and Justice League. Those have been confirmed. Those are actually in production. And and I'll be honest, the reason they're probably planning more Batman movies is because, well, Batman has a stronger pull at the box office than Superman right now.
Yeah, because he actually has legitimate successes.
Yeah, because, I mean, they tried bringing Superman back initially with Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. And, well, it didn't work out for them. And so they figured, okay, well, let's put Superman away for a while, and let's give, this Nolan guy wants to do Batman. Let's let him do his take on Batman.
I think pretty much the only success Superman has had, at least as far as the big screen is concerned, and you guys can question me on it because I haven't seen every film, would be the two Richard Donner films, Superman 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, they're hated. Superman Returns is hated. Man of Steel is still one of the most divisive subjects on the internet to bring up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's Superman. Yeah, because I mean, Superman. A lot of his success occurred way back in the 40s and 50s. He had movie serials, he had television shows, stuff like that. And it's kind of the case of, it's kind of a theory that some people have is that it's hard to make Superman relevant in the eyes of the movie-going public. I mean, in the comics, they've been doing their best to make him relevant. Granted, they did some controversial decisions, some of which very reminiscent of Joe Quesadilla, but it's kind of the case of it's hard to actually make Superman relevant to the average moviegoer.
After all the M. Night Shyamalan ding-dong jokes we just barely made, I don't know whether or not you were actually joking about that guy's name.
I am.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
Before the people send a hate mail to me about the evil racist comment that Romney said.
Well, then again, it's just kind of the case of, but it's the problem is that Warner Brothers has become more risk adverse because they are trying to catch up to Disney. If it's not going to be DC, it's going to be the fairy tales. That's why they're competing with both their own Peter Pan movie and their own Jungle Book movie. And so it's kind of the case of that Warner Brothers like, well, we've had more success and more films that have been more liked with Batman than we've have had with Superman. I mean, Batman with Michael Keaton, Batman Returns, although was kind of iffy at the box office, but did decently well. Then there was Batman Forever, although with Schumacher, it was also moderately successful. Batman and Robin, they put it away for a while, but then the Nolan films brought Batman back into prominence, and so it's kind of a case of, okay, well, it's obvious more people like Batman than they do Superman.
Yeah, because the success trail is a lot longer. But here's another thing that I'd also like to point out, because let's just be realistic here. If people do not think that Batman v Superman has not only influence over Man of Steel 2, but the Justice League movie 2, if you don't think that they have that, you are completely wrong. It has absolutely every bit of influence, because Justice League is the lead-up. This is the competition to the Avengers. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Batman v Superman tanks. Like, horribly tanks. At that point, do you think Zack is going to be director for Justice League? Probably not. Warner Brothers will probably not bring him on. Because they want to have that one screw-up, not the big screw-up. They want to have Justice League be successful. And I'm actually one of those few people that can say, if Justice League does well, it would be better than the Avengers. And the reason it would be is because Justice League has a longer standing than the Avengers do. So there's a lot more people who would be excited about a Justice League movie. So that's just the bottom line of it. And if you don't think that this has a hold on the Aquaman movie, the Wonder Woman movie, the Flash movie, the 2020 Green Lantern movie, they all do. A lot of this plan is hinging on the fact if Batman v Superman cannot get it off the ground, this is all done, and they can't do it. Not without going into their own pockets. But even if they had to go into their own pockets, they probably wouldn't bring back those directors or those writers.
No, and even during the production of Batman v Superman, they had to do their fair share of damage control because of stupid stuff both Zack said and David Goyer said, which is why Ben Affleck, they brought in the writer from Argo to replace David Goyer, because they wanted to they've been trying to do damage control to build that faith back in the audience. That's why they incorporated all of the destruction that people complained about in Man of Steel into the story of Batman v Superman. They're trying to appeal to saying, hey, we're gonna actually work this in. It's gonna actually be part of the story. We actually know what we're doing. Please see our movie.
Yeah. So with that said, nothing is confirmed here. Man of Steel is on a lot of hold because they're waiting on the numbers from Batman v Superman. And the bottom line is that if it's successful, Zack's going to do it. Mm-hmm. That's just the bottom line of it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next story, which is probably also going to be another rage inducer. So this is one where I have to blame the internet on this one, because the way that this actually happened is the new female team of Ghostbusters is filming in downtown Boston. And they decided, just for the heck of it, we're going to go visit some kids at a local Boston hospital, which was Tufts Medical Center. And they decided to go in full Ghostbusters attire for their film, so they potentially risk, spoiling how their outfits are going to look and all that stuff, even though there's been leaked pictures. But they went in to be able to give some hope to some kids, as well as visit some cancer patients, things like that. Generally, what we would all consider to be a good PR move for that movie. Mm-hmm. We would consider that, right? Well, the internet didn't, because apparently, almost immediately after putting up the images on their Facebook page, Tufts Medical Center was deluged with fans that were very angry that these imposters dared to besmirch the good name of the Ghostbusters with their gross girl cooties. That may be an embellishment.
Well, that may as well be the whole cause of it.
10 years old.
Well, again, because I've actually gotten into arguments with coworkers about this sort of thing as well, that people are thinking, how dare they touch it? How dare they do some sort of new idea with an established thing? Well, what the hell would you rather have them do? Would you rather have them bring in an aged Dan Aykroyd, an aged Ernie Hudson, an aged Bill Murray, although Bill Murray has said no countless times? Would you rather have them try to bring back the old... Would you rather basically have them do a Blues Brothers 2000 thing with Ghostbusters? Is that what you want?
Yes. Yes, that's what the internet wants. Because how dare you rape their childhood?
Rob Walker put it best. Your childhood's fine.
Yes, exactly. So, now Tufts actually, this is one of those things where I'm very thankful that they had a good kind of Facebook representative, because they came out and said, we're not going to deal with this bullcrap. Their Twitter comment was basically, please remember our Facebook policy is that any comments with profanity will be deleted. And so the posting in question was celebrating. They try to reemphasize that this was a good deed, and it is, guys. It is a good deed. As much as we want to give crap to the people who's like, well, this is just a PR move to get the uniforms announced and all that. You know what? Those actresses had to be willing to do it, because I'm pretty sure in their contract it states they can't be forced to do something they don't want to do. Yeah, and they're all smiling there. Nobody's angry.
Yeah, it's part of the negotiation with the Screen Actors Guild that unless they're specifically under contract for certain PR events, and the thing is that the reason they did this is because they were shooting in the area the hospital was. Kids were putting up signs, trying to get their attention just for the fun of it, and they figured, you know what, they've been putting up signs, they've been kind of excited that we're shooting near them, let's give them a nice surprise. So why do you feel you have to ruin that?
So at this point, the other thing that also just irritates me is the internet has actually come out against the fact that Tufts Medical Center, even though they clearly stated it in their policy, they do remove these comments, and they do remove you forcibly. How dare you infringe on the freedom of speech and whatnot? Let me show you some of the examples of freedoms of speech, because some of these have fallen through the cracks. So this person apparently messaged Tufts Medical Center, I just threw up in my mouth so much. Here's another one. They sure do a good thing, but I still ain't watching the film because besides they changed everything positron glider proton pack jumpsuits Ecto. What next? A wooden box with a peak old guys. Horrible. Peak old for a containment system. I actually thought for a second there I wasn't going to get through that paragraph.
Yeah, it's not because he's saying it wrong. That is how it's written. Poor spelling.
And at that point, I would already want to call the grammar police on you. So at this point, this was also another reply. For most, myself included, it is not about blind nostalgia and refusing to accept change, but rather that these actresses aren't that great or even that fun. I don't like Melissa McCarthy and don't particularly care for Wig one way or the other. The other two ladies, I have no clue who they are, but if they're going to resurrect a classic franchise, they better get the best cast they can rather than a crew that is merely just a gimmick. That's called cheap budget. You bring in relatively unknown comedians to do your project.
Plus,
what do you think Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray were brought in?
Well, yeah, and it's kind of
an SNL actor.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a case as well. Like, that's what they did with the original. That's why they brought in people like Bill Murray. I mean, Dan Aykroyd was the one who initially created the idea, worked on it with Harold Ramis, but that's why they also brought in people like Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson, who, while Bill Murray was well-known, Ernie Hudson not so much, and they were shooting it on a smaller budget. It's just, gah.
And here's another one that actually kind of irritates me. The one girl even broke character and took her ridiculous, guys, that's not even how it's spelled, ridiculous glasses off. Those proton packs look ridiculous as well. Such a shame that this movie is even happening. Ramis is turning over in his grave. You don't know what Harold Ramis is doing? Honestly, he's applauding them. That's what he's doing, because at least he knew that they're taking the creativity to maybe step outside the box that he created. You really think Harold Ramis is turning in his freaking grave over a new idea? Just seriously!
Yeah,
I get it. You don't want this Ghostbusters remake to happen. I'm kind of on the fence on it, too. I'm kind of on the fence about the other one that is getting made that has an all-male cast. But guys, let it happen. Let it be what it's going to be. For all we know, sure, it's not as funny as Ghostbusters, but it's funny in its own right.
Yeah, and it's at least nice to see that they're actually willing to try something new and different with an idea instead of either doing a crappy beat-for-beat remake like a certain Alfred Hitchcock film remade with Vince Vaughn as frickin' Norman Bates, or not trying to bring back the... I mean, you would either have it go one of two ways if you wanted to get the remake you deserve. You'd either have it go the Blues Brothers 2000 route, where they basically try to remake the whole film but don't have all the things that made the original film good, or you'd have the Highlander Endgame route, where it would just basically try to add stuff to the continuity and just make things worse and probably ruin characters in the process. I mean, that's why Bill Murray doesn't want to come back, because he knows it's not going to be the same.
And I love that so many people are already writing off these chicks. They're not even calling them actresses or anything like that. They're not even giving them that honor. Who are you going to call? Not these chicks. Have you seen them do anything? Oh, to my knowledge, only one of them has another film credit. So at that point,
two of them, like Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, are pretty well established, and McCarthy's actually been doing pretty well for herself because Spy actually did pretty well for her.
So at this point, why are we criticizing this? These other two are untested. That's a great idea. Let's see how they actually work together with each other. If it proves in the film that they don't work well, then there probably won't be a sequel.
Well, yeah, and plus, again, the classic argument, and the reason that this whole thing is actually being made at all is that, look at Bridesmaids. It brought together a lot of lesser-known comedians, and it was successful. I mean, granted, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they're trying to just mishmash it together. Well, yeah, Hollywood's been doing that for years. That is literally, in the film classes, that's slick. That's literally how they tell you, if you're going to try to do an elevator pitch, it makes it a lot easier if you say, oh, it's Jaws set in outer space, or, oh, it's, like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It's like, oh, it's 12 Angry Men, but in a belly of a whale. That's just how Hollywood does things. That they take ideas that have been done, trying to mash it with something else to create something new. Sometimes it works. sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So I've noticed that our other two panelists have been here. They have been quiet on the matter, but they both have this face of such hatred. Such hatred. So Aldo and Alex, I just kind of wanted to, I probably can guess Aldo here. He's probably tired. But just your thoughts on this whole thing.
I don't know why we give these stories this much time as we give them. Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
And they're still gonna go watch the movie. I mean, that's the end of the day. It sucks that a poor hospital had to get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
It sucks that some poor intern is now stuck like 8 hours trying to remove all these hateful Facebook messages. But in my time of silence, I actually went to the hospital Facebook page and looked at a lot of the comments, and I think I want to say like a good 90-something% of them are gone, and you do just have a lot of people going like, this is great, my kid was here, blah blah blah, my kid really enjoyed it, and all these like really nice kind of positive things about the people that were affected, and I was like, that's great.
And the bottom line is that this is the only kind of stunt like this that got criticism. I still remember when the whole bet was made between Chris Pratt and Chris Evans on the Super Bowl. And so I think in the end it was what? It was Pratt that lost?
Yeah, Pratt lost the bet, and he came in character as Star-Lord, but even Chris Evans still came with him.
As Captain America.
He wasn't in costume at the hospital that Chris Pratt went to, but then it's kind of a case he still did the thing that he would do if he had lost the bet. It's kind of they went and helped each other with the whole thing. It was just an example.
But then again, I mean, Chris Pratt did steal a costume from the set, so I mean, I think that's why he went in costume.
Well, that was actually part of the bet, though, is that like if the team that they were supporting lost, they had to go to the hospital in character and in costume. That was part of the bet.
Okay.
Yeah, they had to go in costume. And I still remember people got rage on that because it was nothing more than a promotion for Avengers 2 and whatnot. No, they said on Twitter it was a charitable thing. They had made a bet, and they fulfilled it. And in the end, the kids were happy because they got pictures with Captain America and Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that. It actually irritates me when people do this kind of stupidity in these comments.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember like back during the events of the Aurora shooting, people were like saying, "Oh yeah, Christian Bale really needs to appear in costume as Batman." And there was no crap given him when he just appeared as himself to the hospital in Aurora because everybody figured, okay, well, he at least appeared. It's just kind of a case of
he doesn't have to do anything. Chris Pratt didn't have to honor the bet. Neither did Chris Evans. Sure, they would have gotten a little bit of backlash for it, but they're both individuals who had a freedom to choose, and at that point, they chose to be the good guys in this. Same thing with this cast. This is a great move.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, I think Aldo is right, and we did get actually a lot more time to this than we did. Alex, do you have any opinions before we move on?
What, now you suddenly will come back to me? You've been ignoring me all night.
I have not been trying to ignore you!
Oh, you have? What can I say?
I think we have our episode title. How dare we ignore Alex?
Yeah, how dare you? You've skipped over me pretty much every story tonight.
Oh, have I? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, do you want to give your opinion on this, or?
Fine. So, this... Okay, I've probably come out enough on the show about I don't really like the idea of this whole reboot, but that's another matter. What they did here at this hospital was a great thing. They went in costume, in character. I don't know necessarily in character, but they went in costume. They went to cheer some patients up. That's great. They wanted to do something nice for a day. That's awesome. I don't care whatever my opinion about them in their work, previous or current. It doesn't matter. When they do this, that makes me feel good about them, and it makes me say, hey, that's great. And the fact stupid-ass people had to come and ruin it by posting a bunch of shit, no, just leave the shit on the doorstep. Right? That's not the subject matter here about your feelings about the movie. Because it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with the fact that they're going to make some people happy for a day. be happy about that. Go post that. Hey, whatever you might feel about the movie, this is great. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
there's separate things. What you
Yeah.
feel
That's
about
just
the
why
movie
we can't
is
have
terrible
nice
thing.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This is why we can't
Mhm.
have nice things. So before we move on to the story, I guess I have to make this up to Alex. Are there any other opinions you want to point out, or?
All right. Well, you know what? It's 5 minutes to the end of the show. I better not.
Okay. Well, then we
'Cause I'd
will
have
make
to go-
sure to fix this, and our internet audience will actually come back and say, yeah, you guys completely forgot Alex, and we'll make sure not to do that. So the last story here, before we get into kind of our closing, is apparently, and Alex, I think you were the one that found this, right?
Let's see. What is it?
The Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
So apparently you found this, that Adi Shankar, who is the executive producer of Dread, Machine Gun Preacher, The Grey, and Broken City, has announced that he will be producing a super violent miniseries based upon the 1989 NES game Castlevania III: Dracula's Curse. Furthermore, the series will be animated by Frederator, the team behind Fairly Odd Parents and Adventure Time, that's not a good sign, and will be influenced by titles such as Akira, Ghost of the Shell, and Ninja Scroll. So I'll admit, when I first saw this story, I've seen stuff like this for a while now, where they were talking about I think Sci-Fi Channel acquired the rights to be able to do their own movie. A series idea has been pitched around for quite a while, specifically about Dracula's Curse. Not about any other Castlevania title, just this one.
On a few occasions, there have been movie ideas, people wanting to do their own twists. Like Paul W. Sanderson wanted to do a Castlevania movie that would go Castlevania Legends.
Yeah.
Cast his wife as Sonia Belmont because he casts his wife in every single film he makes.
Yes.
And so, Castlevania as an IP has been floating around Hollywood. I mean, and we more or less did get a Castlevania movie. Dracula Untold is basically just Lords of Shadow, except without Patrick Stewart or Robert Carlyle.
I want you to make that joke. You can't make that joke, and that's what makes it sad.
Again, if you had Patrick Stewart as Caligula in that film, it would have basically been Lords of Shadow the movie.
I don't
It literally
get Castlevania anymore.
It literally ends with Dracula waking up in modern day. So, as far as I'm concerned, Dracula Untold is the only Castlevania movie we've gotten. That and Van Helsing.
I'm not going to get Castlevania anymore.
Yeah, well, we're probably not going to get it anymore because Konami. But
Yes.
let's stay on topic.
On topic here. So, I'm just a little curious because if people have been following on our Let's Play channel, I've been trying to get Alex into the Castlevania series of games. Ironically enough, now they're over. But we have gone through Dracula's Curse, and you know how complex the storyline at least was considered to be. Would this be a good idea to you or a bad idea? And I actually do want to kind of focus on this whole super violent thing.
It's Castlevania. It's vampires, and frankly, a lot of vampire fiction, vampire lore has been kind of jaded thanks to Twilight. So I think going in the super violent direction, and I'm generally the one who doesn't really care a lot for the ultra violent shows or games that much. It's just my personal taste. It might really just be the way to go to kind of reinvigorate the mythos of vampire fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be. I will say that if Edward ends up being Dracula, I'm going to scream. But
Well,
I'm actually one of those few that actually thinks this might be a good idea. Granted, I have seen video game properties that have gone way overboard with the ultraviolence. I don't know if anybody else here has seen the Devil May Cry anime.
I've seen it, and to be honest, I'm probably going to be one of the people that's actually excited about this prospect because I liked the Devil May Cry anime because the games themselves were that violent and were that gory, at least as gory
and
as.
were kind of that dumb with their jokes. I mean, I don't know how many people gave crap over, really? He eats strawberry sundaes? Yeah, guys, this is the corpse of Dante.
Yeah, and that literally is a specific detail that Hideki Kamiya had as part of Dante's character because he wanted to create a cool character that didn't smoke, didn't drink, and okay, well, what's his vice? He likes strawberry milkshakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that a lot of people give crap to the ultra gore in the series, but in its defense, I'll probably say like that first episode, it was kind of ultra gory, but it kind of had to be. And there were also some episodes that didn't have any gore or blood, just nothing but jokes.
Well, yeah, and there were some that had a nice balance where not necessarily gory, but it did some creative ideas, like the one about the pocket watch that makes the wielder bet their life on a next challenge. That's my favorite episode of the Devil May Cry anime.
The gambling one, I love that one.
Yeah, and the reason I'm excited is because Fred Rader is behind it. Fred Rader has been trying to push the envelope with how animation is perceived here in the U.S. because they're actually getting tired of constantly getting pitches that are basically copying Adventure Time or copying Bravest Warriors. I mean, they even went down kind of the darker route with their short Blackford Manor. And so they've been trying to get more unique animation ideas, and given that they're saying, oh, Fred Rader is going to be producing it, it means it's going to be high-quality, hand-drawn animation, made in Korea, granted, but that we're going to get high-quality animation out of this. And given that they're openly saying, yeah, we're going to take cues from things like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, it means they're going to take this seriously.
Yeah, that's the first thing that kind of drew me to this, is that their inspirations were Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and Ninja Scroll. And this is from the people who did Fairly Odd Parents and Adventure Time. I would never expect them to go that route. Well, and so that already tells me that they're pushing the envelope here. And
they've gone that route in a few other ways. I mean, a lot of people tend to forget that. I mean, if you look at what they've been putting out on the internet, those are the kind of shows you would never see on television. I mean, there's one show they did that's pretty raunchy called Super Effers. I don't feel like actually saying the title. And they are pushing the envelope, but the thing I like about Fred Rader is that, yeah, they're doing stuff that's for adults, but they're not doing the stuff that's for adult that we see on Fox, where it goes denominator. They actually try to be a little bit more clever with their humor, but the key thing they always remember is that the characters need to grow. They need to develop. We need to actually learn and grow with the people. We need to actually care about these people. That's why there's a huge following for Bravest Warriors, is because of the amount of attention they pay to the fact that we're building these characters, we're developing these characters, because that's what drives the narrative, is whether or not people actually care about these characters and whether or not they succeed in their goals. I mean, if you look at the end of Season 2 of Bravest Warriors, it actually gets pretty dark.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen Bravest Warriors, but the other thing, the one thing that, like, when I read this and I read deeper into it, that excites me is that they are taking such serious influences. The only inaccuracy that I would have with it is, they went into details about who this is going to cover. It's going to be following Trevor Belmont, obviously, as he aims to defeat Dracula, with the help of Alucard and Sifa Belnades. There is a third member, and I hope he doesn't get disincluded, which is Grant Dynasty. Because he's got a long-standing feel in the Castlevania mythos. So don't disinclude him. But right now, I'm not against this whole prospect. Aldo, are you for or against this kind of a series happening?
I mean, I'm not a Castlevania guy, and I gotta agree with Romney. I do think Dracula Unbound is probably the closest thing we'll get to like a live-action Castlevania movie, which to me it's not a bad thing, because I quite enjoyed Dracula Unbound, but it's cool. I mean, I like hyper-violent, gory animation every once in a while. Korgoth the Barbarian was a really good experiment for it. It never kicked off, but Hellsing Ultimate, also another really good example about kind of vampires kind of done well.
Yeah, that's still to this day an anime that gets recommended to me a lot, that I've not seen.
But yeah, and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is another good one as well. That's just an anime movie.
Yeah,
that's another good one.
Right, and honestly, with some of the stuff like Adventure Time was done, like some of the kind of darker, weirder episodes, I could see this going pretty well.
Sure. No, I mean, given the inspirations, I think they've got a lot of potential for it as long as they play their cards right. But we'll have to see as things develop more and more. I find it interesting that Adi Shankar is willing to come out and say what he wants to do with all this stuff. So he has said via Facebook, I'm producing a super violent Castlevania miniseries with my homies Fred Siebert and Kevin Klond. It's going to be dark, satirical, and after a decade of propaganda, it will flip the vampire subgenre on its head.
Well, to be fair, Eddie, forgive my language, we're on the internet here. Adam Shankar don't give no fucks. He doesn't care. You want to make a Power Ranger movie? Screw it. Power Rangers, adult. All right. You want to make a Punisher movie? Yeah, let's make a Punisher movie where he beats up people at a laundromat. You want to do James Bond being hyper violent? Sure. What the hell? Let's go for it. Shankar doesn't care.
No, he's willing to do this as long as he's willing to look into the material. I'm fine with it because there are directors out there that wouldn't.
Yeah, and if not Shankar, it would be Fred Siebert would at least care enough to actually do his research.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you've seen Shankar's like fan projects, there's no worry about this with me. Even though I'm not a Castlevania fan, so I don't have a horse in this race technically.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up because we actually technically are over. But one of the things that Romney did actually incorporate that is kind of an adaptation is actually going to be staying because I like the whole idea of it, and that is the one cool thing that you've been able to do this week. It can be comics, it can be movies, it can be gaming, whatever it is. What is one cool thing, Romney, that you would like to advertise to people?
Well, I would like to advertise a YouTube channel that I found that it's these two videos done by a YouTuber by the name of J. Matthew Turner. Now, one of his most recent videos was trending, and it's basically him kind of analyzing the plot of Karate Kid and kind of giving an argument that Daniel LaRusso is the real bully in the Karate Kid. Now, that was the first video that caught my attention, that brought me to his channel, but the video that I really want to recommend is an earlier video he did that basically is called Mortal Kombat and Enter the Dragon are the same movie. And he does a full breakdown of both stories, and the comparison is there. Mortal Kombat and Enter the Dragon are pretty much the same exact movie, and his arguments are actually pretty well thought out, based on actual analysis. I mean, some fans got kind of butthurt about the Karate Kid video, but I do highly recommend his Mortal Kombat Enter the Dragon video because he, even some of those minor details, he makes really good arguments for his points in these videos.
And it's not something too new. Look for Couch Tomato. That's pretty much Couch Tomato has been doing that same thing for about a year or so, where he just takes two movies and shows you how they're the same movie.
And it's not a stretch. Not those two movies.
Oh yeah, and it's a common subgenre on YouTube, frankly. Yeah. And between J. Matthew Turner and some of Matt Pat's most recent videos on the Film Theory channel, J. Matthew Turner does it better, a lot better.
Okay. Alex, what is the one cool thing you would like to recommend to people on the interwebs?
Well, I know I'm not really a huge manga reader, but I did pick this up a little while ago. It's been sitting on my shelf. I got to start reading it. It is, of course, Puella Magi Madoka Magica Homura's Revenge, and this is a manga take. Basically, an alternate way of continuing the story is, well, what if Madoka did not ascend to a higher plane of existence, and rather she retained all the memories of her of the past timeline, and, well, how is Homura and Madoka going to outsmart Kyubey in this? I gotta start reading it soon.
Okay. And then, Aldo, what is one cool thing you'd like to recommend for the interwebs?
I have, I guess, two things right now. Is Rocket League. I just recently got roped into it, which is just soccer with rocket-powered cars.
It's been recommended to me, too. I might have to join you on Steam. It's on Steam, right?
It's on Steam and PS4, and it has crossplay, so if you have buddies that have it on one console, you can play with them. Otherwise, the other thing I would even recommend would be Secret Ponchos, which is it's kind of like it's like a top-down shooting game where you play against other people, but you're using spaghetti western stereotypes. So you have a matador with a whip. You have an old general or an old wartime guy that's quit. You have a bounty hunter. You have the old guy who has revolver guns. It uses a lot of stereotypes. Just looking at the trailer, it'll describe it a lot better than I can.
All right. And then you said you had a second thing.
That was it.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was Secret Ponchos and Rocket League. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you were still talking about Rocket League when you said that. I thought Secret Ponchos meant something in the game.
No.
My bad. So, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for tonight. Well, my one cool thing, unfortunately, I really don't have one because, again, I guess my one cool thing would be being a father is an awesome thing, except when the baby's screaming at you. Really, the only thing I've had time to do is in between feedings, I've been watching the new Transformers series that got recommended to me by a friend of mine. That's supposed to be the successor to Prime, and it's okay. It's okay. I can't really care for the animation style. I loved Prime for it being as dark as it was and for trying to tell a serious story. And this one isn't really trying to do that, and it knows it. So it's hard to recommend that because those are the Transformers series I tend to avoid. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have been doing at this point, aside from playing old school games that people get kind of tired of me bringing up. So unless it's on my channel. You said it, not me.
Adam.
No, for this week it'd be No More Heroes on Wii, because I basically marathon that to finish it.
It's not old school yet, is it?
Yeah, it kind of is.
No,
kind of. It's previous gen and a lot of internet.
And previous decade.
I love it. I just barely finished it. I thought it was awesome. I especially loved the fact near the end it decided to break the fourth wall and actually have some good jokes with it. But yeah, there you go. That's pretty much all I have there. Go try No More Heroes if you haven't already. It's excellent. But in the meantime, that's going to go ahead and do it for this show. So if people want to get a hold of our panel, and we're going to actually start up with Alex here. So, Alex, you technically showed not only an icon of Homura, but you just showed a manga of Madoka and Homura. So, if the internet wants to immediately let the people in Japan know you did that, and know that you have officially made it so that Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions can be sued, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me here on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel where I do mostly anime-related stuff. Got a new review up fairly recently, and of course I've been doing my Let's Play of Long Live the Queen, a strategy-based anime game. So you can also find me on Twitter. Alex J. Short is my handle. You can find me on Facebook. Look up Alex Short.
All right. Although, if people want to get a hold of you in the fact, and I'm looking for it, it's happening, it's coming to me. If they want to actually get mad at you because you do not think that M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong should officially be forced to turn in his career because how dare he even give the hint that he should be doing a Last Airbender 2, how are they going to leave?
I feel like Shyamalan's next project just needs to be The Adventures of Jar Jar, and everything just be full circle. But if you want to tell me, if you want to give me your pitch for Shyamalan's Adventure of Jar Jar, you can do it at Twitter at Aldo531. You can also find me on YouTube Board Offline. You can also find me at Overdub ES, as well as I think that's it actually, yeah. And here.
All right. Stephen Romney of Romney's Reviews. If people want to consistently give you crap over the fact that how dare you steal the idea of bringing the podcast to your own channel and criticizing people's right to freedom of speech when they don't agree with a cast that is going out to a hospital which is known to be a complete public relations stunt, how do they know you?
Well, it's time to pull out the stopwatches once again, ladies and gentlemen. You can always find me on youtube.com/Studio Fantasma. That's Fantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney's Reviews. No apostrophe. You can also find me on Twitter. I am at Romney Reviews. You can also find me on MoviePilot at moviepilot.com/ROMNE.
And if people want to get a... Well done, Romney. Well done.
I still got it.
We missed this for 2 weeks. And then if people want to get mad at me because apparently I just don't like the things that you like, I'm sorry. But here's how you can get a hold of me. There are 2 ways. One is you can go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Drac2326. If I can get my finger in the right place, there we go. And also my Twitter handle is the exact same thing. It's Drac2326. You can leave your opinions there. I might reply to them. I might not. It just depends on whether or not I actually want to feed the trolls that day. If people want to get a hold of the show directly, there are 3 ways to do it. Romney's Reviews is not one of them, so please leave us alone. First one is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave stories that you'd like us to cover. You can leave opinions on the stories that we've already covered. Or you can just give us an opinion on what you would like improved for the show. Do you like our one cool theme feature? Would you like something else? Maybe you should bring it there. The second place is on our Twitter, which is GeekyNRO. And you can follow us to get up-to-the-minute information on when we're going live, any other polls that we have going at that given moment. I will admit I promised that I was going to put up, like, which is your favorite DBZ movie. I have not done that yet. I'm going to. So I would love to hear you guys' opinions on that matter. Who knows? You might actually hear these opinions on there. So that is the second place. The other place is on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/geek. Facebook.com and look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and like it. And you'll get up-to-the-minute information where we're going live. We will have polls on things like the DBZ movies, or if we want your opinion on a particular story, if the internet trolls are out there and we want to get your opinion on it, that's where we would go. And also, I'm going to go ahead and pitch this because people have been asking. Yes, there have been podcasts that have happened over the last 2 weeks. Why aren't they on the playlist? They are on the playlist, actually. It took a while, but I was actually able to get them up on there, so I'm going to go ahead and pimp that. Go to my YouTube list of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. That's where everything Geek News goes up. So if you want to watch that particular Gaming with the Geeks episode where Aldo was there watching or playing Mortal Kombat X, that's where you go to get it. But in the meantime, that's going to go ahead and do it for us this week. So for me, for Aldo, for Alex, and for Romney, we'll see you guys next time for more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. Leave Jar Jar